Welcome everybody, welcome back. Today I need to make some soap for my personal use. And typically we use two different bars. One we always have on hand is a neem soap. And today that's what I'm making. And typically when I'm making soap for my home, I use hot process method because it's quicker. I can use it right away if need be. So, what I'm going to do is, I know in the other video I said I don't usually measure out for time, but I already have my coconut oil in my little small crock pot. Okay, so it's already there. That's already melting up. I preheated the crock pot on low. Now I'm turning it down a little bit to warm, and I'll turn it back up to low later. But I wanted to show you guys something. Now, neem, I get my soap, my oils from Soaper's Choice. This is, I think, I've had this one for a while. So I think this is it's a 7 pound. And if you haven't used neem oil, and I wouldn't use what's in the local grocery store, this is unfiltered neem oil, okay? Or the big box store. I don't know if you guys can see, but it's somewhat solidified. Neem, when using neem, a little goes a long way. So it's a very potent oil. The smell to me smells like garlic. It's quite disgusting, if I must say so myself. And again, I just wanted to show you guys what it looks like. So I'm going to go ahead. This calls for, this batch right here calls for 7 ounces of neem oil. And really that's more than I should have. But I'm going to go ahead and put the 7 ounces of neem oil. Hopefully it'll come on out so I can show you guys what it looks like when it's not liquefied. So just like the coconut oil, when the temperature gets a little colder or cooler where you store it, it becomes solidified because this has not been filtered. Okay. Now, neem oil. If you're wondering what neem oil could be used for, it's used for a multitude of things. Toothpaste, antibacterial, antiviral, skin conditions, dry skin, eczema, you name it. It's been known to help those type of conditions. I use it on a daily basis just to keep my skin moisturized. And of course, I do scent it with an essential oil. And I typically use a blend of tea tree and eucalyptus. I like the smell. Tea tree, of course, is antifungal, antibacterial, and it helps as well with skin conditions. Eucalyptus, I just like the smell. So I don't want to put too much. So I'm slowly drizzling this in because it's solidified. Okay, so I got that in, and I'm going to show you guys what it looks like. Outside of the smell, it has great properties. So this is it. Again, it's solidified. It's unfiltered. It's not clear. If it was warm in here or if it was summertime, it will be liquefied. You would see some solid bits, and I could have just shaken it up and poured it out. But this is the neem oil, unfiltered, and I got this from Soaper's Choice. Okay, so that's 7 ounces of that. I'm going to clear that out. And my recipe also calls for castor oil. And in this one, I have 6 ounces of castor oil for this recipe. And I'm just going to pour it right on top of the neem oil. Okay. Get that in there. And this is a great soap. I also make a version of this that has hemp oil in it, but I don't have any hemp oil at the moment. I really have to buy some more oils. I think I'm running out of castor oil. I have to check my stock. But and that's a topic that's coming up soon as far as organization and knowing where your supplies are and what you have. so that you won't have to spend extra money replacing something that you think you're out of. I think we all may be guilty at some point or another of not being as organized as we should be. Okay. The castor oil, that should do that right there. 6 ounces. And another great oil that I'm going to use in this soap batch is avocado oil. Love it. And if you don't have avocado oil, you could find a similar substitute. You can use maybe an avocado butter. I think they do have a butter, avocado butter. Okay, well, I get that in there. I want to make sure that I'm focused because a lot of times I will go over and I don't want to have to recalculate what I need. I'm just going off an old recipe that I have available. All right, so that should do it. Another dash. Okay. Just it says 5.9. I'm going to go with that. Now, avocado, castor, coconut, neem. Coconut oil is already in the crock pot. Okay. And these are the additional oils, the neem oil, the avocado, and the castor. And I'm just going to pour those in there to heat up and melt down. If I could just switch. Alrighty. Alright. And again, this is a great, I love this soap. I really do. And it's even better to me, in my opinion, if I have hemp oil. But I ran out. So here we go. I want to get all of this out. Hot process. Hot process soap is the same concept as cold process. And I'm speaking to beginners in the sense that the only thing that's different is you're forcing saponification with the heat. The heat being the crock pot, okay? If you've ever seen some of those old history movies where you have somebody making soap in a big pot and they stir it all day or for hours and cook it, that's a version of hot process. Okay? So now that we've gotten that in there, I'm going to go ahead, turn this back to low. And another thing that I'm going to use in this recipe, which I'll tell you guys about in a minute, while I pour out my sodium hydroxide. And in this recipe, I will put the recipe in the description as well. In this recipe, it calls for 5 ounces, 5.01 ounces of sodium hydroxide. If you want a more accurate, you're probably looking at, it's 142.14 grams. So 5 ounces of sodium hydroxide. And again, this is why sometimes I like to have my measurements already done while I'm making a video. I don't like the silence, and I don't right now know how to add music. I guess I could figure it out. But that'll be for another day. So I got my 5 ounces of sodium hydroxide poured. And then we are going to need 12.92 ounces of water. Okay, I'm just zeroing out my scale. If you hear that beep there. So we have our water. Again, 12.92. Forgive me, guys, I'm concentrating. This might be the video that I figure out how to put music in between the silence. Alrighty, we'll get in there. We're just about there. Alright, so we have the 12.9 ounces of water. And while everything is melting down, put my water there. I want to also talk about another additive that I use with the, sometimes when I'm making my hot process soap. Because when you make hot process soap, unlike the cold process soap where you can just pour it in your mold, you cannot do that with a hot process soap, okay? Because it has thickened. Basically it has thickened, so you will not be able to pour it. You can scoop it out with a spoon and you can put it in your mold and tap it down to ensure that you have even pour in your mold. But sometimes what I like to use, and you don't have to use this, this is an option, is sodium lactate. All right, sodium lactate, again, this came from Soaper's Choice, 7 pound, a little bit goes a long way. I usually use about 2 to 3% of my oil weight of sodium lactate. So my oils are 34 ounces. So I will use 2% of that. So 2% is about 5 ounces. I think I'd have to do some calculations. 2%, 3. I do 3 ounces. And I put this in at the end. So for me, immediately when I put it in and stir it up, I can see the soap batter loosening. And it enables you to pour or get it out of the crock pot a little better. So that's one element. Now, while these oils are heating up, I'll bring you back once everything is melted and we can see how we put this together. The oils have pretty much melted. I have a little bit, I don't know, you probably guys can't see it, so tilted. There is a little bit left in there, a small piece, and I'm not worried about that because once I pour the lye water in, I don't know if you guys can see that little piece of coconut oil that hasn't melted yet. But once I pour the lye water in, which I have right here, and at this point when you're doing hot process soap, you don't have to worry about the temperature variation between the lye water and the oils because it's all going to heat up at once. But just for the sake of checking, that's just me, the oils are showing at 135. My lye water is at 166. So I'm just going to go ahead and pour my lye water in. Make sure I get all of that out. Oh, that neem oil is an acquired smell, to say the least. Again, to me, it smells like too much garlic. but it really is good for you overall. Okay, so now we have everything in. As you can see, the oils just started to saponify as I was pouring everything in. And I'm just going to mix this up. Make sure I get it to a trace and get everything mixed up. And I can tell this is a thick batter because of the way my immersion blender sounds. So usually I'll just go around little sections and just blend it up a little bit. There's a high amount of coconut oil, 15 ounces of coconut oil. When you are doing hot process soap, you really do not want to walk away from it for an extended period of time because it can heat up. Right now, my crock pot is on a low. I'm going to turn it down to warm. If you're using a crock pot and you start to soap with hot process, it's going to take time for you to know if your crock pot runs a little on the high side or low side. This crock pot I haven't used in a while, but because my oils are already at 140 degrees, before I poured the lye water in, I'm going to err on the side of caution. And the friction between the blender also raises the heat as well. So keep that in mind. As you can see, we have a nice thick blend. And what I found with using neem oil and even doing any type of hot process, just when you think you're at trace, you're going to have to come and re-blend this back up because the oils could separate from time to time. But for the sake of this getting blended up, I'm going to call this blended. And I'm going to let it do what it should do. So I want to get that excess soap off. Or excess batter. It's not quite yet soap. I want to get all that off. Put that there. And this is another reason why I like the stick blenders that separate from the sticks, because you can just go in there and make sure you get everything out and clean it out. So, all right. And that's a lot of soap up under there. Soap batter. Alrighty. Put this in my little bowl over here. Get all of this off. And there are several phases, a couple of phases that this soap will go through. As you can see, look how stiff it is right now. And it's quite opaque. And as it goes through the process, the batter will become a little bit more translucent, kind of like a jelly or Vaseline or something to that nature. You'll be able to see it. It's a nice, obvious look. All right. And before I walk away from this or let this cook, I want to check the temperature. The temperature is at 140. 140, 143. Get this excess off right here. And again, guys, I love hot process because really, once it cools off, I'll be able to use it. It won't be as hard, but I'll be able to use it nonetheless. And that's the best part of hot process. You do not have to wait weeks until you can use the soap. Okay? Unlike cold process, you can basically use this soap immediately once it cools. I'm going to bring you back as it goes through the different phases to show you what to look for. All right, it's been about 15-20 minutes since I did the blend. And I came back and put this little plastic cover over it just in case it spilled. It tried to erupt out. But what I was saying before about the oil separating, I don't know if you guys can see that. My lighting in here is not the best, but the oils have separated, and that's something that you would see that on the top. So I usually just come back in and just reblend it just to get them back separated. And as you can see, it's getting translucent as well, so that's a good thing. But I just want to mix this back up. And you don't always have to use the stick blender. You can use your handy spatula. If you like, the stick blender is just a little bit quicker. So that's something that you want to look for when you're making hot process soap, depending on the oils that you use, separating. So you may have to do that once or twice. And again, safety, because a little bit of this hot soap just popped up on me. You want to always wear your gloves and long sleeves. As I was blending, a little bit popped up on me. Okay, so we're just going to get this blended. And also, again, remember, as you blend, it gets hotter. And that's even more reason why you want to stay with it, because it might. Let me test the temperature. Right now it's at 194, and I turned this up to low. Let me just get this. And typically for hot process, 135 should be the max. Mine is always usually over that, and I usually cook mine longer than I need to, just because I want to make sure all the lye has been saponified and that the mixture is complete soap. Okay, see how that looks like a little jelly? Okay. And that's that translucent Vaseline type stage. And you can tell also, if you're using a stick blender, you can tell the difference in the sound. So this sounds pretty thick, as if my stick blender is struggling to get through the mixture. So with that, I'm going to stop blending. And I'm going to go ahead and let this cook a little bit longer. Usually I do about 15-minute increments. And then I come and I check on it to make sure that it's okay. 10 to 15 minutes increments, because I'm doing other things while this cooks. This is the reason why I put the little plastic wrap over it, to make sure if it tries to erupt, there will be something to help stop the overflow. Okay. Wow, that looks so good. The smell is horrendous though, but once I put the essential oils in, see that Vaseline look? Beautiful. Yeah. So it went from that kind of thick, opaque, white looking color, or off beige looking color, to this translucent jelly type look. So that's what we want. I'm going to try to get this over here again, because it is actually technically too small for it. It's those little covers that you can put over bowls and stuff to protect the food from flies and other things. So we're going to put that on there. We're going to come back in about 10 to 15 minutes, and we're going to check the progress of it. So, but that's pretty much the process. But you want to make sure that you cook it at 135 at least. But again, mine cooks for higher than that. So I'll bring you back as we go through the next stage. All right. The soap is complete. I let it cook for about an hour and 10 minutes. And then I let it cool for about 20 to 25 minutes. I don't know if you guys can see, but the soap has turned dark. It's at that jelly-like stage. It's nice and translucent there, if you can see that. And this is what you want. And although it doesn't look too stiff, I'm going to still pour the sodium lactate in. I'm going to use my Essential Depot mold today. This is almost 3 pounds. So I'm going to use it. It's the perfect mold for it. It's already stabilized. So what I have here is the sodium lactate. Again, this helps make the soap fluid. Not as fluid as cold process, but fluid enough that we can get it into the mold rather. And you just want to stir that in really good and let it get incorporated. Okay. And once that gets incorporated, and it's getting like soupy, so you want to get all that in. See how fluid it is now that we've put the sodium lactate in? Again, the sodium lactate does two things. It makes the bar a nice hard bar once you unmold. So if you were using softer oils, I used a high percentage of coconut oils. I didn't use any butters. So the sodium lactate helps that bar to kind of get a hardened state as if you would have used butters or something to that nature. And then we'll put the essential oils in. The mixture is very fluid. And I'm going to put in my essential oils and get that blended up. So right here, I have about 1.5 ounces of essential oil, half and half of tea tree oil and eucalyptus oil. And again, I really do love this blend. It's a really nice blend. And it does a great job masking the smell of the neem oil. Oh, it smells so good. I really do like it. So we want to make sure we get that incorporated really, really well before we pour it into the mold. Then I want to make sure I get everything out of there. So that's everything in there. So yeah, let's get that blended. All right, great. This is really nice. You want to make sure we pour. And again, I can't remember how many quarts this crock pot is. But this is a smaller one I've had. And it goes back to what I said earlier in the video about being organized and knowing what you have. I have soaping supplies and equipment in different places. So sometimes I don't see that I already have something. I know that I have it, but when I go to look for it, it's not where I think it is. So again, it's very important to be organized. Alrighty, so I'm going to take this out. Move this to the side. So you guys can see how this pours. My lighting is pouring here. The sun is starting to go down, and this is a dim room, so I'm trying to make sure that I get it poured with some somewhat good lighting. So again, hot process soap. You will not get a smooth, even pour. See how that's pouring? That is what the sodium lactate does. It helps you pour that. Had I not put the sodium lactate in, I would have had to use a spoon to spoon it into the mold. So sodium lactate, some people have their issues with sodium lactate. I don't. I've been using it really since the beginning of soaping. But yeah, that made for a nice smooth pour right into the mold. Oh, and it smells great, guys. And again, once you are comfortable with cold process soap, hot process is the next step. And I know people that just basically do hot process, never learn to do cold process, but the beginning process is the same. The only difference is that you are cooking the soap batter to force saponification as opposed to letting it cure over weeks. And this is it, guys. This is my go-to neem soap done during the Okay, I had to replace my memory card, so I hope I got the pour in. But either way, this is my go-to neem soap. I did the soap batter via hot process. It took about an hour to hour 15 minutes to cook at around, mine was a little bit more than 135. I would say between 145 and 150. And once it cooked, I turned it off and let it cool off for about 15 minutes. And then I added my sodium lactate to help with a smoother pour. And then I added my essential oils. Remember, it's important when you're using essential oils, fragrance oils, perfume oils, you want to know the flash point. And that is the degree at which you can use it when you're making soap or burning candles, if you're making candles with it. So it's the top point or temperature that it will ignite on that temperature. So you want to make sure that you look at that when you're doing hot process soap or any other soap making that requires heat, or any other craft that requires heat. But with that being said, guys, I'm just going to spray a little bit of alcohol on it, which with hot process soap, you really don't have to worry about soda ash, but it's just become second nature for me to spray it on there. So I always do it. But until the next video, guys, thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share. Thank you. Okay, let's unmold the soap and cut it. This is the neem. The soap has been sitting, actually been a couple of days. This is the neem hot process soap. And I'm just unmolding it. And if you remember in the beginning of the video, I added sodium lactate to the batter. And what sodium lactate does is make a firmer bar. It sets up faster, and it also helps with bubbles. But apologize for the lighting. One thing right off the bat that you notice difference from a hot process soap and a cold process soap, which those cold process is what I was doing in the beginning video, is the rough texture, right? This is a more rough, rugged texture. On the sides, you don't have that smooth texture because, again, we're not really pouring it. We poured it, but it's not a smooth pour. This is a nice, hefty bar. I'm happy with it. And let's cut it. So again, this particular soap, this neem soap, and I've added eucalyptus and tea tree oil to it. It's a staple in my house. So I keep this on hand at all times because I like it. It's great for the skin. So I'm always using it in combination with another bar of soap that has a more pleasant fragrance. So again, hot process soap. This soap right here, I can use it right now, today, as I will. Even though it's soft and you can let it sit and get harder, but technically you're able to use it today. So as I cut my pieces, I'm going to just move my soap cutter to the side, and I want to show you guys how this lathers. In this bowl, I have a little bit of water. I'm going to just take this piece of soap we just cut, and I'm just going to put my hand in here, and we're just going to lather this up. We don't have to worry about the soap burning us, about lye being the issue, because it's already been cooked out. The saponification process is complete. All we have to do now is just let it sit and get harder, right? So it's not like 3-4 weeks. As you can see, it's creamy. It's a creamy bar. Let me see if we can get some bubbles here. And this is the one thing that I prefer over hot process. If your family is running out of soap, or you have a customer that is wanting a batch of soap or something, this is something that can be created quickly and it's easy to use, right? So I will definitely probably let this sit a week just to firm up. And yeah, here we are. Hot process neem soap. It's been, what's today? 3 days since we made it, and it's ready to use now. What more could you ask for? How easy is that? How rewarding is that? Making your own soap and being able to use it right away. Thank you guys. I hope that this was helpful. And until next video, keep soaping.